Yeah, I guess you could just YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming this evening. It's 6:45, and we have a public hearing scheduled to hear an appeal on an F-type liquor permit. The Black Swamp Arts Festival is changing things up a little bit this year, and as a result, it requires a change to the permit. Is there anyone from the Black Swamp who would like to enlighten us on your exciting new things?
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Amy Kraft-Ahrens, and I've been the co-chair of the concessions committee for Black Swamp for about 23 years, I think. So I was around the last time that we changed the beer garden from a little tiny strip about 12 feet wide along the warehouse building in Lot 2 to what it is today, which is the south and east side of Lot 2. And we are hoping to have y'all allow us to expand to the entire parking lot space of Lot 2. For a couple reasons. In fact, we've talked about it for many years, but just feel like this is the year to finally push for this for several different reasons. One being, of course, COVID. It's just a good idea to have a large number of people in a bigger space than a large number of people in a smaller space. And having that expanded area would just allow people to be able to, have their families sit in a family union, not sitting with other people maybe that they don't know, and also to be able to take their beverage up to get their food and then go find a place to sit. Just a little bit more convenient for our festival goers. A couple of reasons why that's important to us is about 30% of our budget for the festival is from beer sales. So we are not a beer fest, but it is crucial to what we do in terms of funding the festival. And we actually think this may increase our beer sales just a little bit. Also, I think there are sometimes people that may not want to go into the beer garden when it's really crowded if they've got kids with them. And this way, maybe, one person goes to the beer table, someone else gets a table, and, it's a little bit easier for people to spread out and maybe not be all clumped in. I think that we've shown ourselves over the last 27 years to be conscientious partner with the city. We've literally, I can't think of a single incident that we've really ever had with the beer garden that, has involved the police or has involved any kind of real issues. We are very conscious of how we have the signage so people know where they can and cannot have their beverage. It'll be much like the Dora signage, maybe a little bit more noticeable because it'll be a big change for people this year. So we may do a few other small things besides just big signs that would go at each area where the beer garden officially ends. But we do feel that we can make this work, have it be successful for the festival, successful for the city, and maintain our history of non-issues. Do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
So it used to be a little strip, Amy. I mean, it must have been awfully dense in there.
It was
at that time.
awful.
Yeah.
Our first year when we moved to Bowling Green, my dad was talking about the festival. My dad's Floyd Craft and was one of the founding people of the festival. And he said, "Yeah, we have a beer garden." And I'm like, "That's not a beer garden. That's like a strip with like 10 tables in it." And it was, you literally couldn't move in there. It was insane. So I think the second year I was on the committee was the year that we expanded to what we have today. And that felt amazing. I can only imagine what it's going to feel like if we get the entire lot too. So, but I think we've shown that we can do it and do it safely.
Mr. President, I want to thank you for all you've done and are doing, not only with this, but just in the community. And I also want to thank you for this may actually be the easiest council decision this year. So I move that we approve the F permit for Black Swamp Arts Festival.
Second.
We normally do it during the council meeting in order for it to be on the record in the minutes. So.
Well, then I'm early for something for a change.
So we'll do it during correspondence.
Do over.
I have an additional question then.
Yeah, sure.
So you said you've wanted to enlarge the area for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you would you consider making it larger? I mean, we are not the ones limiting your guys' ability to do that, correct?
Ultimately, the whole festival site, that would be lovely, but I can understand that there might be some concerns, even maybe from artists who might not necessarily want people, considering the entire festival site a beer garden. This, I think, keeping it kind of where it is. We've talked about possibly the spot where the Downtown BG Live is right now is privately owned, and we've talked about incorporating that, adding some additional tables in there too, which would actually get some space a little further away from the music if some people don't want to be that close to the sound and so on. So we have a few other options, but it's something to think about, but not anything that we're pushing for right now.
So Amy, the diagram was a little unclear when I was trying to look at it. So it's like the whole lot 2, but it doesn't include like where the food trucks are and up
Yes.
to like the sign-in table.
It would
like
go
that
right
whole-
up to the sidewalks behind Juniper and what is now Beckett's and so on. It'd go right along that back wall. I think the small lot that is sort of between Stone's Throw and the buildings there on Wooster, that lot is still going to be parking for our food vendors. So that probably really isn't going to be considered beer garden. There won't be any tables or anything in there. But I imagine we'll probably have the signs at the end of that lot rather than trying to block off that passway somehow. There'll be another thing will be this aesthetics of taking away the 8 million miles of orange snow fence in the middle of the festival that will no longer need to be there. So it'll just look a lot nicer for patrons too back there. And we won't be fencing everything off. We'll still be fencing off the greenery that we've always done to protect the city's shrubbery and stuff on the east side, and the south side. We'll still be fencing that off, but there won't be any fencing in the middle of the parking lot anymore.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this issue before I close the hearing? All right. Seeing no one, this hearing is closed.
Ready?
All right, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled council meeting. Kay, could you call the roll?
Dennis,
Here.
Harold,
Here.
Hollenbaugh,
Here.
Phipps,
Here.
Robinette,
Here.
Roland,
Here.
Zanfordino.
Here.
Okay, the minutes from our June 21st meeting have been distributed to you all prior to this meeting for your review. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay. It's not on your agenda, but we do have a special presentation tonight by the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask a couple people to come up and join me for this presentation. Kristen Otley, our Parks and Recreation Director, and Jody Anderson, our Parks and Recreation Board President. So as you can probably guess, this proclamation is related to parks. So this is this is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. Whereas parks and recreation activities enhance the physical health and mental well-being of individuals, workforces, and communities. And whereas participation in recreation programs builds self-esteem and provides positive and constructive alternatives to antisocial behavior. And whereas parks and recreation opportunities and open space enhance the desirability of communities as locations for business, industry, and residential housing. And whereas parks and recreation stimulates tourism revenues and the economic development of communities. And whereas parks and open spaces are vital to the appearance and livability of communities, protect air and water, help balance the ecosystem. And whereas it is the right of everyone, regardless of age, race, color, religion, gender, ability, or national origin, to participate in parks and recreation programs and activities and enjoy parks and open space. Now, therefore, I, Mike Osbacher, Mayor of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio, do proclaim the month of July 2021 as Parks and Recreation in this municipality and join with citizens of other communities throughout the great state of Ohio in recognizing the parks and recreation services are essential to the quality of life, not only in July, but all through the year as well. I'm going to give this to Jody, it's the president of the chair of the board, and thank you for all the work that you do. And Kristen, you and your staff do a terrific job with our parks. Thank you very much.
I would just say it's a whole month that Parks and Recreation gets. So, but this is nationally as well. So thank you for doing that. It really helps our cause. And I like the word in there, essential. So that was a word we all used last year, but Parks and Recreation services are essential as well, right up there. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That brings us to correspondence, okay?
Yes, I have a few things this evening. The first thing is from the Finance Director, Dana Pinkert, is a listing of budget transfers to be made for this month, and those require your approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you very much.
And then also distributed to you prior to the meeting and noted for the record is the financial budget summary report for the month of June. And received from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control is an application for a Class C1, C2 liquor permit to GB License LLC, located at 300 East Poe Road, Unit B in Bowling Green. And during the check of the records, it was discovered that due to zoning regulations that are in conflict with this type of liquor permit being requested at this location, the staff is recommending that we ask that we hold a hearing to further consider the matter. So when I return this to the state, I will request a hearing.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And then we had a public hearing earlier this evening to hear an appeal for an F-type liquor permit for the Black Swamp Arts Festival event being held September 10th through the 12th, and that requires a motion for approval.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold,
I move that we approve the F liquor permit for the Black Swamp Arts Festival.
Second.
okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay,
And that's all I have.
all right. That brings us to lobby visitations. Kay, do we have any lobby visitations this evening?
Yes, the first person is Dante Tanner. Did I pronounce that right? Okay.
Welcome. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Dante Tanner. I live at 1520 Clough Street, apartment number 107 in Bowling Green.
You can go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I'm here to talk to you about climate change because I feel that climate change is an emergency that affects all of us. And I know that we've seen a lot of wildfires, a lot of flooding in the news lately, and just generally there's been a lot of heat waves, there's been a lot of extra rainfall, and scientists aren't being vague about this anymore. This is a direct result of human emissions. It's because we're burning fossil fuels, the planet is warming. And so I feel that this is an emergency. I don't know how I can say, emergency any way different. This is something that needs to be addressed quickly. And I feel that City Council has the opportunity to address climate change by committing to reduce emissions. And so I'm aware that today you guys are voting on a resolution for a climate action plan that should include in it a date of at least 2040 or earlier for carbon neutral. I'm highly in support of this. I cannot stress how highly I'm in support of this because we need strong commitments here. And I'm very proud of what Bowling Green has done. I'm very proud of what the mayor has done in order to make sure that we have renewable energy here. I think we currently get 40% of our energy from renewable sources. I'm very proud of that. I'm glad that I live in a place that is so friendly to renewable energy. But I think that we need to continue to reduce emissions, and we need to continue and renew our commitment here. So really, if you have any questions, I have data that I can send you guys to pack all this up. I left my contact over there with the clerk. Yeah, I think this is just the most important issue facing us right now, I think about this every day. I think about the climate when I think about, planning for my future. What's my career going to look like in the future? What's my family going to look like in the future? All this depends on what the world looks like. And so I feel like this is the most important issue that you guys will deal with possibly ever, and so it's like not a lot of people get to say that, that they saved the world, but I really feel like if you take action on climate change and make bold commitments like this 2040 commitment, that you can really say, you changed the world and you saved the world. So thank you. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Next person is Lindsay Durham.
And again, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Durham. I live at 853 Parker Street. I am here tonight regarding the legislation to be proposed making Juneteenth an official city holiday. I wanted to come in person to show how much I support this decision. Juneteenth has been celebrated for over 150 years, and I believe the recognition of this important day in American history is long overdue. While many are excited to see Juneteenth officially recognized, I know some people are concerned it will infringe on the 4th of July. I have found no evidence for these concerns. This is not an either-or situation. Both days have their place in history and deserve to be recognized. Earlier, I made the point of saying that Juneteenth is an important day in American history. not solely African American history, but American history. This day of culture, freedom, and celebration should be shared by everyone that holds freedom dear, for it was not until Juneteenth that all Americans were free. Because of this, I once again show my support in making Juneteenth an official city holiday. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Next is Ahmed Mahmood.
And again, if you could give your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Ahmed Mahmood, and I live on 824th Street, Bowling Green. I'm here to support the bill that the resolution that Dante just supported that states that Bowling Green attempts to go carbon neutral by 2040. He pointed out all the evidence, and I think we all know pretty much that the writing is on the wall all around the world. I came to Bowling Green 5 years ago from halfway around the world from India. And when I moved in with a bunch of friends and students from a country known as Bangladesh. It's a country of 160 million people. And by the turn of the century, that whole country is about to drown. Just like small islands have already drowned. And me and Bob have met people from those islands whose ancestors could not be buried on land. And you saw the heat wave, you saw the fires, and you saw how the world and this planet is changing like never before. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. The issue that we have is I think we don't want to change the way we live our lives. And nobody is up for that, including myself. Nobody wants to change how we live our lives. But the reason I'm here is because as somebody who's not American, you are at the forefront of this. You are the last line of defense that this planet has. And I mean it in all seriousness. If it's not you guys, I don't know where else we can go and ask and pose this question. I don't know who else would take up this issue. And I don't know who can deliver this. But if you guys choose to back this up, then I know the whole world will follow for reasons that are obvious and not need to be said. I know that if you as Americans and as residents of Bowling Green, if you stand behind this, that there will be a huge amount, if not, all of the world that will stand behind this, and the change will be permanent. I did my master's research on this. 10 years ago, if you were to say to somebody that by the turn of the century, the mean temperature of this planet would be higher by 2 degrees, people would doubt that. Now that's the most conservative estimate. Even in Bowling Green, we are struggling with this. 40% of farmable land in 2019 could not be planted because it was filled with water. So we have all the incentive, as Dante was saying lastly, that the date really is our goal. If we don't have a date, we don't have a plan. It's a wish list. And if we don't have a plan, if we don't have a goal, then we don't have anything to march forward to work toward. So I really urge and beseech the City Council as well as the community to back this and pass this. And I hope I've communicated everything that I wanted to. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much.
That's the last person.
Okay. Introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
from the Finance Committee, I have 2 ordinances. First, an ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021. And an ordinance amending and adopting Section 33.20A of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding holiday pay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I have 2 ordinances from the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee. The first is an ordinance vacating the alley located west and south of 615 North Grove Street between West Mary Street and West Evers Street. And the second is an ordinance accepting annexation of approximately 18.350 acres of land in Plain Township, Wood County, Ohio, from the City of Bowling Green petitioners and rescinding ordinance number 8917 as no longer needed for municipal purposes.
Okay. And I have a resolution requesting Congress and the President of the United States provide leadership and coordinate with state and local governments on accountable Lake Erie watershed protection and restoration, and an ordinance authorizing the utilities director to purchase replacement pumps for the ATAD process at the Water Pollution Control Facility and declaring an emergency. Okay. Official reports.
Good evening. I have no report, but I'm happy, of course, to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone have any questions for the mayor this evening?
Mr. Mayor, how long does the DORA go this year? Is it till
Till Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend? Okay, thank you. Same as last year then.
Same as last year.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening, Council. You may have noted a small change to your official reports section. As we had shared with you in the spring, we have done a bit of a reorganization here at the City of Bowling Green, and reflected on here are reports from our Bureau Directors of Public Services and Public Infrastructure. Now, please note that that does not mean you will not see your favorite department heads along the way. Certainly, the Bureau Directors will be organizing who has reports, who has legislation that may have questions to respond to, and that those folks will be here on those evenings. We're just trying to streamline our process here a bit. So in relationship to that, here it says first night on here, and Joe, our Public Services Bureau Director, is not here this evening. He's on vacation, but he has asked Amanda to come in his place, and she is going to give you a bit of an update on the information that was distributed to you before in the report, the refuse recycling report. Before I hand the microphone over to her, however, I do want to make a note that have any of you had the opportunity, or if you've not had the opportunity, invite you to please visit the city's website. It has been updated. And because Amanda is here and she is amongst all of our city staff, everyone worked on this, but Amanda was a true leader in helping to get that done along with Joe Fawcett. They worked very hard. They had a lot of partners along the way. A lot of people have done training and work and looking at the back end of things. Certainly getting it right is very important when it comes to a website and what is set up. And the new site features a fully responsive design available on any device. Before, our website wasn't scalable. So if you tried to look at it on a cell phone, you've probably all been to pages like that where you have to scroll back and forth. Ours is now scalable. It also meets ADA requirements. It's been organized to provide a more intuitive experience for our users. And we also hope that people will visit to look at the Notify Me feature, because residents can sign up to receive customized alerts sent directly to their email or their phone. These notification options will include anything from meeting agendas, local emergencies, refuse recycling delays, events, and many more. So as of July 5th, the new site had been visited 15,492 times, and 60% of the visitors accessed the site with a smartphone. So that tells us a little bit about how it's getting used. So again, that completes my portion of the report. When you get to public services, again, that'll be Amanda, who will be reporting on a few updates in her place. But I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Treader this evening?
Yeah, Mr. President, regarding the Black Swamp permit, so that's a bit of a convoluted process. Is there a reason why we do it that way, or would it be beneficial to simplify that so that we have a little bit more ability to just authorize those permits, particularly in residential zones? Actually, that seems like an arbitrary restriction that we have.
Well, of course, that would be council decision. What you're referring to is that right now under the ordinances, anyone who is applying for an F-type permit on public property. So again, these are public properties. the municipal administrator only has authority to approve them in city parks, that section. And that is why I had to deny the application from the Black Swamp Arts Festival. So in the last 20 years, I believe this is only the third time this has happened. One could argue that having an opportunity for a hearing where alcohol is going to be served on a public property, this would give a public place for people to visit and share if they have a differing opinion, because it is an advertised hearing. There is a process there. And, I would say that if you're going to consider amending that, you may want to think about what kind of criteria and rules and regulations would be there. But again, I would point out that in 20 years, I think we've only had 3 appeals on it.
Mr. Chairman, and Lori, if we were to change this, I mean, first of all, you've only done it perhaps 3 times in perhaps 30 or 20 years. And if we were to change it, there wouldn't be the public hearing process. Am I right about that?
Well, it depends how you changed it. Under the current right now, if you were just to change what the authority is, in that section that we shared with you, it just says only allowing in that section of the code, that chapter 97. So it would just depend how council changed it.
Well, I would just say is for things as big as Black Swamp, that I think it's good when you make a change that we do have public hearings and we have a little public input. And it's not that we change it every year. It's just not done frequently. I understand why you have the authority to make pass judgment and make opinions on facility use of our park and use of alcohol, because that happens very, very frequently. So we do need you to make the changes. But for now, I just think it's really good to have the public input, and rather than go about making a change.
So I guess what I was getting at is the fact that it's only happened 3 times in 20 years. We've heard that they've wanted to expand for a long time and have never gone through with that. If we could make that process a little bit easier, maybe that would happen more often.
Nobody from Black Swamp has left, right? Because it's not my understanding at all that was because of the city's requirements. I mean, we work with them and meet with them. They certainly know that amending, is not an issue. We worked with Firefly Nights. They did 2 amendments in one summer. They're 2 of the 3. The third was Black Swamp Arts Festival. So I don't believe it had anything to do with
It's not a major
process.
hurdle. I'm sorry. That's not what I was implying. But any hurdle. The hurdle.
All right. Are there any other questions for Ms. Treader this evening?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, Mr. Marsh. Okay. Sounds good. Any questions for Mr. Marsh?
I'll hold them for when Amanda's up there.
Fair enough. Representative of the Public Services Bureau Director, Ms. Gamby, who apparently has many things.
Hello to all of you. Good to see you. I won't take too much time. The waste diversion report should have all been emailed in advance of this meeting, so I'll let you read through that at your leisure. I did want to point out a couple of things of note. One is that we are continuing to see the cost of recycling go down, which is very refreshing. I mean, it's not like where we would really like it to be, but around this time last year, we were averaging about $150 per ton for the processing and transporting fees. We're now averaging about $130 per ton, and that's been consistently going down month after month. So fingers crossed, we'll continue to see that trend as we move through the rest of this year. So that is one thing I wanted to note about at least the cost side of things. As far as tonnage is concerned, solid waste and recycling are both down about 1%. And we're thinking that's probably due in part to some folks shifting back to life. So that's good. We're moving away from home and starting to go back to work, back to school. and we're shifting that refuse and recycling back to those commercial and professional locations. So we'll see as the rest of the year goes on if that trend continues as well. The newest item that appears in this report for the first time is an update on the pilot food waste drop-off. So we are entering our 4th month for that program, and we have collected just shy of 6.5 tons as of the end of June. They're continuing to come every other week, and we'll stick with that collection schedule for now. Really, Go Zero doesn't have too many other routes up here that would justify them being able to come around more frequently. More frequent dumps also equal higher cost for us as well. So we're seeing I would say about 11 containers on average being filled a week. There's normally, I'd say, at least one kind of in the corner that just human behavior doesn't get used all that much. And of course, hotter months equal smell and flies. So we're getting a little bit of complaints about that. Go Zero does wash. They have an in-vessel washing contained unit on their truck. So they wash those containers and reline them every single visit, but you can't really compete with 95-degree temperatures in your natural summer pests. So we're grateful for the folks who are sticking with us. There are some days where it's been tough to open those lids, I'll admit, out there. So, but so far, very well received. In future months, or actually future weeks, I should say, I should have compiled the results of a survey that's gone out to known users. We'll also share that in our upcoming e-news, so folks who are not already on our email list can respond as well. But we've already had 82 residents who have responded to the questions that we put together, and we're getting some great feedback. I'm excited to share the responses with you, but those are still coming in, and once they're compiled, you'll get a full report. So other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Mr. President?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Go Zero comes out twice a month, did you say? So is it ever that the containers are not sufficient, that by the time they come, that there's stuff piling up outside of the bins?
No,
Ah,
no.
cool. Yeah.
Initially, there were some folks worried because we were pushing them to the brink, but we check them once or twice daily in some cases. Either I'm out there or our public works superintendent or some of the supervisors. So we're laying eyes on them daily, and we were working with Go Zero. They brought us extra containers so we could move them as needed. So you might have saw some full containers, but that was intentional.
I was just curious.
Yep.
I've noticed some bags in there sometimes, which is certainly a problem. Do they slit those open and get the stuff out, or is that just pretty much garbage if it goes out there in plastic bags?
Those are actually BPI certified compostable bags that some of our residents have requested permission to use, and we've gotten them that permission from Go Zero. So we're handling that on more of an intimate basis where we respond personally to those inquiries, and they've also gone out in email updates to known users. We're very hesitant to put that out in our broader PR outreach because we don't want folks to mistake it for plastic grocery bags. So far, I've only had to pull a couple of those out of there, and I'm really hoping to keep it that way. But the BPI certified compostable bags are allowable, and they're a plant-based, so they will compost with the rest of that food that's being collected. Good question.
Thanks,
Thank you.
President, Amanda, I have a legal question since you're taking my. No, I'm just kidding.
I
wanted
will
to
completely make something up.
I just wanted to thank you and Joe for the awesome work on the website. It's really, really good.
Thank you. That was quite an undertaking, but I will say that I'm rather pleased with Civic Plus, the company that we've worked with. They do nothing but municipal websites. It is their specialty. So they've thought of things before we've thought of things. They have solutions to problems we don't even know we have yet, maybe. So there are certainly opportunities that are still out there for us to continue to add on and improve and advance that site as well. So thank you, Bill.
Are there any other questions for Amanda this evening? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Let me make sure I got this right. Where is he? Still here? Okay. All right. Public Infrastructure Bureau Director, Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you. I want to talk to you today about combined sewer overflows and just kind of give you an update of what those are and things that we do to try to reduce the potential for combined sewer overflows. And this is really come to the forefront because whenever we get a period of several days of rain, we get a lot of calls about flooding and raining in the city or flooding in certain areas, parts of the city. And what I'm going to tell you now could be impacting on parts of the city that may experience some temporary flooding, but it also may be intentional to help us with our CSO approach. So overall, about 40% of the city is a combined sewer area. And a combined sewer is where the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer are one pipe, and all that water goes to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment. About 60% of the city on the outlying, and the CSO area is mostly the older downtown portions of the city. About 60% is separated sewers, where you have a sanitary sewer and a storm sewer. And in those cases, the sanitary flow goes to the waste plant for treatment, and the storm sewer takes that water to a receiving stream or a ditch, and it goes away and eventually goes to Lake Erie and is not treated. But that is the proper place for it to go. So we have not separated the downtown portion. Again, all that water goes to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment. And we've done several things over the past years to try to combat combined sewer overflows. One of those is we've changed operations at the facility by increasing the pumping capacity to 30 million gallons per day. So we pump and we treat as much water as possible. We have a 5 million gallon holding tank there at the Poe and Mercer intersection. And so whatever we can't pump, that water goes into the 5 million gallon holding tank. And then if we can't pump it and we can't store it, then we have a combined sewer overflow, which that water then is discharged to Poe Ditch and it goes down to the Portage River. We are required by our EPA permit to have 4 or less CSO events per year, and we're required to track those. So some of the things that we do to slow down the possibility of a CSO event, one was we changed operations, and we spent a lot of money to increase pumping capacity and treatment capacity at the plant to get to 30 million gallons per day. But other things that we do, as you drive around town, the streets, you see there's catch basins in the streets. And again, if you're in the older part of town, all of that water that goes in the catch basins ultimately goes to the wastewater plant for treatment. And so several years ago, we thought, well, how do we slow that water down from getting into the pipe as quickly as possible? Which most residents want to see that water in the pipe as quickly as possible because they don't want it either in their yard or in the street. And so we did implement flow restrictors on catch basins. And so in the combined sewer area, you may see intersections or certain parts of streets. Again, we don't do main thoroughfares through towns, such as Main Street or Wooster Street, which are in the combined sewer area. We try to limit these to smaller side streets. But we put restrictor pipes or orifices on the outlet of the catch basin. And what that does is it holds the water in the street for a short period of time and allows the water to drain more slowly to the combined sewer. And then as a result, that water then drains more slowly to the wastewater treatment plant and holds off the possibility of a combined sewer overflow event from happening. So we have, again, the majority of the city that it is combined sewer. We've done these restrictor devices in a lot of the catch basins that you see. So, and again, you don't really experience these until we get large rain events or we get multiple rain events over several days. And then you'll start to see that there may be some localized flooding. It doesn't mean that the sewer systems themselves are failing. It's actually could be, like I mentioned before, it could be quite intentional that we're trying to slow down and reduce that rainwater from getting to the sewer system itself. I can tell you in the past 3 years, we have been successful in not exceeding the more than 4 CSOs. I think in 2019, we had 3 or 4 events. In 2020, we had 2 or 3 events. And so far this year, we've had 2 events. One of those events was an operational failure where a pump station went offline because of an electrical problem. and we couldn't avoid the CSO from occurring in that situation. So overall, we've been very successful at meeting our permit requirements, and trying to treat as much of that stormwater as possible. So again, if you do get some calls or some complaints from people about localized flooding, we still want to hear about those because there could be a sewer problem that we need to be aware of, and we should go out and look at and fix. But it also could be intentional that we're doing that, and that just wait a couple hours and the water will go away and everything's just fine. So that's what I have from the questions for me.
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connell?
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
how do you define a CSO again? I mean, what does it take to have one of those four
Yeah, so
occur?
So we are somewhat fortunate that we only have one point in the whole city where we would experience a combined sewer overflow event, and that is at the Poe and Mercer intersection. You might go to other municipalities, and they could have 40 CSO points, and that could be a manhole along a river or a manhole that's close to a ditch someplace. So we have one point, and so that really reduces the impact to the environment, but also how many times we have to count a particular CSO event. If you had 40 of those manholes that were overflowing from your combined sewer, that would be 40 events. And so you can tell within one rain event, basically, you would not be able to meet that 4 or less per year. So a combined sewer overflow is essentially all of the sanitary sewer flow and the combined sewer flow goes to the Poe Mercer pump station. Again, if you're at the Poe Mercer intersection, there's that large building, relatively large building, just to the north of the intersection, and you'll see the 7 or 8 white, I call them doghouse looking things that are inside that fence. Those doghouses are mixers, and under those mixers and within that fence is the 5 million gallon holding tank. And so all of that wastewater, all that sewage goes to that one location to pump to the plant. That's west of I-75, I should say. So when we get a rain event and we see flows picking up, the operators know to increase the pumping capacity of the plant. They increase the pumping capacity, the treatment capacity of the plant. They increase the pumping capacity at the Poe Mercer pump station, and they don't allow the CSO event to occur until we reach the 30 million gallons per day. And when we can't pump more than that, again, the water overflows into the 5 million gallon holding tank that's underground out there. And when that fills up and the water has nowhere else to go, it discharges to Poe Ditch. And that basically is what a CSO event is. And so,
did you say there was one this year, or there have been?
We had two this year.
Yep.
One was due to rainfall. Obviously, both were due to rainfall, but one of those could have been avoided. But we had a pump failure, an electrical failure at the pump station, and we couldn't stop the event from occurring when the pumps went offline because of electric failure. So we are addressing that electric situation right now. So we don't expect that will happen again, but it did happen. So
thanks, Brian. And citizens, over on the east side, let's say, many basements flood during these heavy rains. Mm-hmm. Do you have a sense that happens less since these improvements? The amount of water that goes to the waste station has been increased. Has that reduced the amount of times we hear about flooding basements?
Yeah. Yes. If people do have flooding basements that has occurred, they can contact us. We can go out and look to see what may have caused that problem. We do not guarantee that the city's sewer will not cause a basement or a flooding issue on anybody's property. We can't possibly guarantee that. In some cases, flooding situations occur because of an improperly maintained sewer lateral that goes to the street. Tree roots may get in that sewer, grease may clog it, and they may experience a backup, not necessarily related to rain, but that is the homeowner's responsibility to maintain and keep that sewer lateral open and free flowing. We really don't hear a lot of complaints about basement flooding. If there are complaints, again, we can be called and they can look at the sewer and make sure that things are operating properly, or we can see if the sewer needs to be cleaned or jetted. We can also offer the homeowner advice on things they can do to protect their own property, such as putting in a backflow prevention device, which is basically a check valve. It would stop any water from coming back up the sewer lateral. So if a rain event, the sewer becomes surcharged and there's water going back up the lateral the wrong way, that could then enter the house and potentially flood a basement. A check valve would prevent that from happening. That's on the homeowner to install and to maintain and to fix. But we can offer suggestions like that. We really don't get a lot of calls for that regard. I know when I first got here in 2004, we did have several calls, but we've made improvements to the plant over those years. We've done things like these catch basin restrictors. I would say also, as you're mentioning, flooded basement potential, those restrictor devices also help to reduce flooding potential in homes, because if the water is sitting on the street, that is less chance for the sewer pipe itself to be surcharged, which then could go into the home. So it does slow things down a little bit to allow the sewers to react.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
One quick question.
Yes,
I was given a tour of the wastewater facility when I ran for city council, and it was very, very interesting. It's an important, very important facility in our city that none of us could possibly understand unless we didn't have it, and then it would be a mess. But I recall distinctly that the gentlemen who were working there told me that either one or all of them are called back in. And this was 2011.
Okay.
They were called back in when we had heavy rains because there was a lot of work they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do they still have to do that? Is that still necessary to have extra manpower when we have a heavy rain?
No.
Good.
There's enough automation, and our SCADA system is much better with how we control the plant. Now, I'm not saying that the plant is staffed 24/7, so someone is there all the time. And it is that operator's responsibility that when a rainfall is coming or they see it on the radar, they see things happening, if they do see the flows pick up, it is their responsibility to convert the plant from maybe it's treating at 4 or 5 million gallons per day to get the plant up to 30 million gallons per day, typically within, I would say, 45 minutes. So they are moving and hustling to get things done in a proper order. But I would also say that we've tried to do some control mechanisms, like, for example, at the Poe Mercer Pump Station, we've revised the pumping scheme there. So it's using level sensors and automation to increase flow rates and not requiring the operator to do manual manipulation of pumps while they should be out doing other things to get the plant ready. So we don't have all the staff coming in to do things like we did years ago. It's still a one-man operation or one-person operation in the evening hours for second and third shift. Again, they're hustling to get it done, but it has worked for us so far. And there is some automation that we could be looking at as well in the future that could help to alleviate that running around that they have to do from time to time. So,
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. President, one question. The flow restrictors, when they're working properly, is there a typical amount of time water's held in the street?
Normally it would be several hours, I would say. It should not be like days, I would say. So if there's an area that has flooding for past a day of time period, we would want to know about that. But I know you sent an email about some areas on Maple Street to look at, so we'll be looking at those and making sure that those sewers are operating properly.
I don't.
Right. Some people they see it for a period of time, and you could go back a couple hours later, it may be gone. But I did talk with our engineering staff and asked them to see if our inspectors could be reviewing those areas that are being called out as we get rain events. And I did ask the sewer staff to also go out and inspect the sewers and make sure that the catch basins are clean and flowing, and there's no blockage in there that's preventing drainage from occurring. So we'll get some information back from them in the next day or two, and if there's activities for us to do for maintenance, we'll go fix it.
Are there any other questions for Mr. O'Connell? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council committee reports.
Mr. President.
Mr. Robinette.
I'd just like to report that the Finance Committee did meet this evening and received a report from the Finance Director, a quarterly report. There were no issues or concerns That was just another opportunity for council and the committee to hear the ongoing status of our city's finances.
Okay. I would just like to make a note at this point that originally we had scheduled a committee of the whole meeting on July 22nd to deal with the issue of rental inspections. However, due to scheduling conflicts with members of council, we have changed that date to the following Thursday, July 29th at 5 p.m. So that will be the time for that committee of the whole meeting.
Mr. President, will that meeting be in this setting, or will we be at the city park?
We'll be here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Reading of legislation.
Legislation for first reading, Resolution number 3801 for first reading, resolution requesting Congress and the President of the United States provide leadership and coordinate with state and local governments on accountable Lake Erie watershed protection and restoration. Ordinance number 8948 for first reading, ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2021.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 8948 its second, third readings.
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded. Okay.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Okay. The rules have been suspended for ordinance 8948.
Ordinance number 8948 for second and third reading, ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2021.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 8948.
Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 8948 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8949 for first reading, ordinance amending and adopting section 33.20A of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding holiday pay. Ordinance number 8950 for first reading, ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to purchase replacement pumps for the ATAD process at the Water Pollution Control Facility and declaring an emergency.
I move that we suspend the rules and give ordinance 8950 its second and third reading.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Okay.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. Okay. The rules are suspended for ordinance 8950.
Ordinance number 8950 for second and third reading. Ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to purchase replacement pumps for the ATAD process at the Water Pollution Control Facility and declaring an emergency.
All right. I need to do the emergency clause now.
Mhm.
All right. I move that we add an emergency clause to ordinance 8950.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. And I would just say that the reason for this is to expedite the replacement of the pumps so that that process can be completed this year. Okay.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Okay, so the emergency clause is adopted for ordinance 8950. I move that we adopt ordinance 8950.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay,
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbach,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay, so ordinance 8950 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8951 for first reading. Ordinance vacating the alley located west and south of 615 North Grove Street between West Mary Street and West Evers Avenue.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
we need to set a public hearing on ordinance 8951, September 7th at 6:45.
Yes.
Okay.
September 7th at 6:45.
Ordinance number 8952 for first reading. Ordinance accepting annexation of approximately 18.350 acres of land in Plain Township, Wood County, Ohio, from the City of Bowling Green petitioners and rescinding ordinance number 8917 is no longer needed for municipal purposes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 8952 its second and third reading.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Okay?
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbach,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended for ordinance 8952.
Ordinance number 8952 for second and third reading. Ordinance accepting annexation of approximately 18.350 acres of land in Plain Township, Wood County, Ohio, from the City of Bowling Green petitioners and rescinding ordinance number 8917 as no longer needed for municipal purposes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I move to adopt ordinance 8952.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would just like to say that I hope this is the last we see of ordinance 8952 or 8917.
You and me both.
All right. Go ahead, Kay.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbach,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 8952 is adopted.
Legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3800 for second reading. Resolution authorizing the City of Bowling Green to participate in the local park improvement grant program and to file an application and accept grant funding upon grant application approval. Ordinance number 8945 for second reading. Ordinance for cleaning of streets by special assessment. Ordinance number 8947 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing a utility easement in Woodbridge Business Park. Legislation for third reading. Resolution number 3798 for third reading. Resolution adopting and authorizing an amended BG transit drug and alcohol testing policy.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold?
I move that we adopt Resolution 3798.
Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Okay.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbach,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
All right. Resolution 3798 is adopted.
Resolution number 3799 for third reading as amended. Resolution calling for a sustainability and climate action plan.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I'd like to offer two amendments to this resolution. Both are pretty straightforward. The first is to add a sentence at the end of section 1 as it was amended, section 1 as it was amended last meeting. That sentence is simply put, net zero emissions will be achieved when greenhouse gas emissions released by electricity production and city operations are counterbalanced by removing an equivalent amount of greenhouse gas emissions from the atmosphere. It was brought to my attention that our resolution could benefit from adding this simple definition, and so I move to add that language right now.
I second it.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay. Can we do by voice vote, or do you need to call the roll?
Call the roll.
Okay, go ahead.
Hollenbach,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, so that amendment has been made.
Mr. President,
Yes.
the second amendment I would like to offer is to section 4 as amended. I'd like to strike the last clause of the last sentence, but no less than every 5 years, and substitute, but at least once every 5 years.
Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay. Okay.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. All right, so that amendment has been made to Resolution 3799. Anything else?
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette?
I would like to offer an amendment. I move to strike the words by 2040 from section 1 of the resolution.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there discussion on that?
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette?
I would just like to remind everyone that the road we're going down here to create a climate action plan, we started on when we did the budget at most recent. And that whether this resolution goes forward or is approved as amended or is not approved, we are going to proceed, the city is going to proceed with the process of analyzing and looking for a way to create a climate action plan. The money's in the budget. It's already been approved. So at that time, when that process begins and as it concludes, it will necessarily analyze, it'll study the impacts, it'll create a recommended date. All of that will happen in the process that we are about ready to start. We as a city are about ready to start. So I think it's extremely premature to presuppose a date or a process that hasn't begun yet, but will. Again, I would like to point out that this process will begin, whether this resolution is passed or not, is not dependent on this resolution. We already approved the work and the funding to fund the work that needs to be done to get us to a recommended climate action plan for Bowling Green. That's going to happen. This isn't about whether Bowling Green pursues a climate action plan. We've already taken those steps. This resolution is a standalone document that's independent of the work that's already been budgeted and will take place in the city of Bowling Green. I just want to point that out. So.
All right, so you've suggested removing the date.
Yes.
That's what you've moved.
The phrase by 2040.
Mr. President, Greg, were you going to replace it with something different?
No, I think the sentence reads just fine without those words.
And I understand your reasoning, Greg, and it makes sense to me that to put a date before the process, but to me, removing the date greatly weakens it and minimizes it. I think one of our guests tonight who said no date, no plan is pretty much where I land on this.
Mr. President,
Mr. Dennis?
I'd echo everything that Councilman Robinette said. This process is already underway. The heart of the resolution is the bold and ambitious goal. So if we remove the date here, what we've got is that the city is going to endeavor to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Are we not already doing that? The date, I think, in my mind, was the reasoning behind passing the resolution. So whether that is 2050 or 2040, I think that we should establish what we would like the goal to be and then figure out how we can get there.
Mr. President, I've seen ever since Rachel put in just a tremendous amount of effort in the various renditions of this ordinance. She's put a lot of work into it. And it's been basically two parts. The first part is the goal, and the second part is establishing a committee to try and figure out how to meet that goal. As I stated at the previous council meeting, I think it was someone gave the phrase cart before the horse with respect to the date, and also, and this isn't really related to this amendment, but I'll just mention now, the mix. The first part, establishing the goal, has two components. The first component, the date. The second component is making a statement that we feel that despite whatever the committee would come up with, despite the amount of pain that it may involve, despite the trade-offs that may be involved, despite the possibility that getting 95% there, including, of course, the very important buffer of net zero. Despite all that, the conclusion is we want to be net zero carbon emission. And I think both of those components are something that falls under the cart before the horse. I'm encouraged that we have a chance to take at least the date part out and let the commission or committee determine what would be best for that. We are committed to continually reducing our carbon footprint. We've shown that over decades. And so this just puts an aspirational goal that will work toward regardless of if we have a date. And at some point in a year and a half or less, when or more, when the committee comes up with a recommendation, I'm hopeful that part of that recommendation will be a timeline. And it won't just have the end result, it'll have intermediate steps. And who knows, maybe it'd be before 2040. But the point is, let that very important decision be made in the process of deliberating, as opposed to without the benefit of the study, picking a date. So for me, I think it's a definite step in the right direction to not have the date, to assume that it'll be given to us as part of a timeline, and not presuppose, not get the cart before the horse.
Any other discussion before we vote on Councilmember Robinette's amendment?
Rachel, are you prepared to give a response to an alternative to simply deleting the date to 2040? Is there any verbiage that comes close but doesn't put the demand that it has to be done? Because the way I see it, it may not be ready to be done.
I don't have any wordsmithing to do. I can speak to, I mean, so I guess I've got to in part echo what Greg said. I mean, it's important not to lose sight of what the resolution really does. It simply turns a committee loose to create a sustainability and climate action plan over the next 2 years for the ultimate review of City Council, the Board of Public Utilities, and the mayor. So those three entities have to review and approve it. The resolution's 2040 goal for net zero emissions is just that. It's a goal that we will continue to evaluate over the next 2 years during the planning process, a goal that we will evaluate when we approve any final plan, and then evaluate again every few years when we necessarily revisit the plan, check in with the implementation schedule, cross off projects that we've accomplished, mark our progress. So the 2040 goal in this resolution is not set in stone. I fully expect it to be adjusted, in either direction as necessary. With that being said, the goal to me is really important. The first whereas clause of our resolution is climate change is an urgent unfolding crisis that presents a serious threat to human existence. And that is true. And so my feeling is, let's get going. So I think a date is important.
And you feel that there's not a way, you're a wordsmither. I have dubbed you the official city council wordsmither. You have not been able to come up with something that says what you want. Let's get going and let's make this important by setting a date.
So I do think that the text makes clear that 2040 is a goal that we're giving to the committee. If in section 1, if the committee finds that 2040 is not prudent, I guess they could point to that. That goal could certainly change. So I think that this aspirational resolution turns the committee loose with a goal in mind. But we will see during that planning process, we will see when we circle and review and approve it in 2 years, if that goal is going to be feasible. I would point out that the university's goal is 2040. I like that there is an opportunity to work with the university on this stuff.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
But that's, I mean, it's a resolution. It's a non-binding resolution. So let's have a bold aspirational goal when we turn our committee loose on this stuff.
Any other discussion? Okay.
This one's a toughie.
So as I understand then, Greg, your motion that's been seconded for amending is to remove the date entirely.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
This is tough. I fear we're not going to make it by 2040, and I guess it's my fear that's in the way, so I'm going to vote no.
Zanfordino,
I'm sorry, but voting no is keeping the date in. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Yes, I vote no.
Dennis,
No.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
I'm trying to count the votes here.
3-2, no.
3-2 no, which means 3-2
It's on
yes. Is that what we're talking about?
3-2 to keep the date
3-2 to keep the date.
in favor
Right
of keeping
now.
the date.
Wait, who hasn't voted yet? besides me?
Rachel, and I have a
You and
feeling
Ray.
I know how she's going to
Okay.
vote.
Well, in that case, I'm going to vote yes. So it's a tie.
Phipps,
No.
so it's defeated.
Okay. So that was the end of that amendment. I would like to propose an amendment.
Mr. President, I apologize, Kay. Could you read off who voted for what? I started writing it down. I somehow lost count.
Robinette, yes. Roland, no. Zanfordino, no. Dennis, no. Harold, yes. Hollenbaugh, yes. And Phipps, no.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. I would like to make an amendment that that instead of just removing the 2040 date altogether, that we change the language so that the date will be set by the committee that's doing the review process. So that the committee will decide what that initial target date is through their work.
There a second?
Second.
Okay.
What
I
is
guess
that?
Point of order, isn't that the same amendment? Just said,
No, because Greg simply removed the date altogether.
which would necessarily mean that the committee,
Well, I'm hoping that the committee, through their work, will come up with a date.
I think Greg was hoping for the same thing.
But the wording was such that the committee conceivably could not have any date. So there is a small, but there is a difference. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'll point out, the President is the arbiter of what's appropriate amendment or
Aha.
not, so
Yes.
he wins.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, so anyway, that's my proposal, is that the committee that is actually doing this work be the body that establishes what the realistic timeline for this is.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Harrell.
might add that at some point down the road, the three entities will approve or disapprove or ask for modification or clarification. So at some point, if what Marcus says passes and they come up with their recommendation, we do get to vote on it and approve it. So under Mark's scenario, maybe they come out with 2040 and always someone. They come out with 2040 and we end up saying yay or nay.
Anyway, is there any more discussion on that proposed amendment? Okay, Kay?
Roland,
Would you read it? We are voting that the
We're-
committee will make the decision on the date.
Right,
The date,
The committee will set the date. The committee that's doing the work will set the date.
yes.
Zanfordino,
No.
Dennis,
No.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Phipps,
No.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay, so the amendment passes that the committee will set the date. Are there any other suggested amendments for Resolution 3799? Okay,
Need a motion to adopt as amended many times.
Oh, I need to make the motion?
Mhm.
I'm, what's the ordinance number, Kay? I'm sorry.
It's resolution number 3799
I move that we adopt resolution number 3799
as amended.
as amended.
second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Okay, could you call
Oh,
the roll?
Mr. President.
What?
Sorry.
We're going to discuss more?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Now we're
okay.
talking about the final product before it
Okay,
actually gets
go
voted on. I wanted to, I brought a little bit of it up earlier. And I would just mention again that Rachel and Jeff have done a good job of bringing this forward. There's a number of good aspects to it. The idea of having a sustainability and climate action plan drawn up is excellent. The only major reservation I have is along the same lines as we talked about with respect to the date. I believe that prematurely coming up with a net zero emission goal is something that it could very well be that that's not optimum. And I know it involves taking a look at kind of a all or nothing in a sense, but I look at it as an optimization, a mixed problem of the different sources of energy, given the very important caveat that it is net zero emissions. So there is a buffer if we do end up using some sources that are not carbon friendly. But to me, it's an optimization problem that we could very well be having the best solution, maybe 95% as opposed to 100%. That's something that I'm concerned about. I think that's again cart before the horse. But having said that, I do need to point out that although I have not felt that there is any semblance of impropriety with the motions that were made up to this point, my voting on this resolution, coupled with my working for First Solar, which is a solar panel company that parenthetically makes really good solar panels. There is a possible scenario where this decision here could down the road if there's a move to have more solar, it is possible that at some point, First Solar would be bidding on that. That's kind of what they do. And so because of that, and not wanting to have any semblance of impropriety or have any of my motivations questioned, I'm going to have to abstain from a vote on this final measure. And the reason is, as I stated. So I appreciate the forbearance. I'm truly trying to find the position that has the most integrity, and I believe that would be it. So thank you for letting me say that.
Is there any other discussion on Resolution 3799 as amended?
Yes, Mr. President, just briefly, I appreciate these recent amendments. I think it's important we send a message to our customers that this, although the city of Bowling Green has and will begin this process of developing a climate action plan, it hasn't yet been developed. And it has just started. I think that's an important message to send. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Abstain.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
All right. Resolution 3799 is adopted as amended.
We had two other.
Amended.
Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.